You set your price low, not because that's what it's worth, but because you were afraid no one would pay more. You thought lower prices meant more customers, less rejection, an easier yes. But that's not what happened. You attracted people who didn't value the work. You worked twice as hard for half the income, and every sale left you feeling tired instead of energized. The mistake isn't being affordable, it's using price to avoid the fear of hearing no. But here's the truth. Cheap doesn't make you safer, it makes you resentful, and it attracts the wrong people, the ones who expect more for less, who don't respect your time, who disappear the moment something cheaper comes along. The people who pay well are the ones who see the value, and they're looking for someone confident enough to charge what it's worth, not what feels comfortable. You don't need to double your price overnight, but you do need to stop hiding behind discounts. Raise it by 20%, then 30%. See what happens. Most of the time, the people who matter don't flinch, and the ones who do weren't your customers anyway. You had this moment of clarity. You knew what you wanted to build, a course, a product, maybe a service. So you sat down and planned the whole thing. Every module, every feature, every detail. It felt productive. It felt like progress. But weeks passed, and you still hadn't launched anything. Because the thing you were building kept getting bigger, more polished, more complete. And somewhere in all that planning, you forgot the simplest truth. No one buys a plan. They buy a result. The mistake isn't ambition. It's believing you need everything ready before you can start helping someone. You don't. You need one clear offer, one way to deliver value, and one person willing to pay for it. That's it. Everything else can grow from there. But if you never start small, you never start learning. And learning is what turns side hustles into real income. Start with the smallest version that solves one problem, then build from what actually works. You were consistent for months. You showed up, you did the work, you stayed patient. But nothing changed. No big break, no sudden traction. Just the same slow grind. So you started to doubt it. You thought maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. And right when you were about to quit, you stopped. But here's what you didn't know. You were closer than you thought. Most side hustles don't grow in a straight line. They stay flat for a long time, and then something clicks. A referral, a post that lands, a customer who shares your work, and suddenly the months of quiet effort start to pay off. The mistake isn't lack of progress, it's expecting progress to feel obvious the whole way through. It doesn't. It builds silently, under the surface until it doesn't anymore. And the people who make it aren't more talented. They just stayed long enough to see the shift. So if you're thinking about quitting, ask yourself this. Are you stopping because it's not working or because it's not working yet? Because those are two very different things, and one of them just needs more time. You have the idea. You know what you want to build, but you're waiting for something to confirm it's the right move. A sign, a course, a mentor, someone to tell you it's worth trying. And while you wait, weeks turn into months. The mistake isn't wanting guidance. It's outsourcing your belief to someone else, because no one is going to give you permission to start. No one is going to validate your idea before you've tested it. And the longer you wait for external approval, the longer you stay stuck in the same place. The truth is, most successful side hustles started with doubt, with uncertainty, with someone deciding to try something even though they didn't feel ready. They didn't wait to feel confident. They built confidence by starting small and learning as they went. You don't need more research. You don't need another opinion. You need to take one small action that moves you from thinking to doing. Post the offer, send the message, build the landing page, and let the response teach you what to do next. Permission isn't something you wait for. It's something you give yourself. And the moment you do, everything starts moving. Someone asks if you can do something slightly outside your offer. You say yes. Another person wants a custom version. You say yes. A third asks for a discount or a favor, and you say yes again, because you don't want to lose the opportunity. You don't want to seem difficult, but now you're doing 10 different things for 10 different people, and none of them are quite right. You're stretched too thin to do any of it well. The mistake isn't being flexible. It's saying yes to everything because you're afraid to define what you actually do. But here's the reality. When you try to serve everyone, you serve no one. Your message gets blurry, your energy gets scattered, and the people who would pay you well for the thing you're best at never find you because you're buried in everything else. Saying no isn't rude, it's clarity. It tells people what you stand for, what you're great at, what they can count on you to deliver. And the more clearly you say no to the wrong things, the more space you create for the right ones. So pick one thing, get known for that, let everything else go. That's how you build something people remember. You built something that works. One offer, one client type, one way of making money. And for a while, it felt great. Stable. Predictable. But then something shifted. The platform changed its algorithm. A client left. The demand slowed down. And suddenly, your income dropped. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you only had one way in. The mistake isn't finding something that works. It's stopping there. Because when your side hustle depends on one source, you're always one change away from starting over. And that's not security, that's fragility. You don't need 10 income streams, but you do need 2 or 3. A second offer for the same audience, a different way to deliver value, a product that sells while you sleep, something that doesn't require you to do the same work twice. Diversifying isn't about doing more, it's about building options so that when one thing slows down, you're not scrambling, you're adjusting. And that's the difference between a side hustle that survives and one that grows. Start small, add one more path, then protect it like you protected the first. You love the creative part, coming up with ideas, designing things, planning the next big move. That part feels exciting. But the follow-up, the admin, the invoices, the emails, the systems, you avoid it. You tell yourself you'll get to it later. And later never comes. So things slip. You lose track of who reached out. You forget to follow up on a lead. You realize you never sent that proposal. The mistake isn't hating boring work. It's believing you can build something real without it. Because the boring work is what turns ideas into income. It's what makes you reliable, professional, someone people trust with their money. And when you skip it, you don't just lose efficiency. You lose opportunities. The follow-up email you never sent could have been a sale. The system you didn't build means you're starting from scratch every time. The invoice you delayed means you're not getting paid. You don't need to love the boring parts. You just need to respect them enough to do them anyway. Set aside 1 hour a week. Clean up your inbox. Update your tracker. Send the follow-ups. That's the work that separates side projects from side income. And no one sees it but you. You check your numbers every day, followers, likes, views, and when they go up, you feel good. When they go down, you feel stuck. But here's the problem, none of those numbers pay you, and you've been so focused on what looks like growth that you stopped watching what actually creates income. How many people asked about your offer? How many conversations turned into sales? How many customers came back? The mistake isn't caring about metrics, it's measuring the wrong ones. Vanity metrics feel like progress because they move fast, but they don't tell you if your business is working. Revenue does, repeat customers do, conversion rates do, and if you're not tracking those, you're flying blind. You might have 1,000 followers and 0 income, or 100 followers and steady sales. The difference is knowing which actions lead to money and doing more of those. Not what gets attention, what gets results. Start simple. Track how many people you talked to this week, how many said yes, how many paid. That's the scoreboard that matters. Everything else is just noise. You work on it when you feel inspired, when you have energy left over, when nothing else is happening. And some weeks, that works. You make progress, you feel good about it, but then life gets busy, and your side hustle is the first thing that disappears. Because you never decided it was important, you just hoped it would fit. The mistake isn't lack of time, it's lack of structure. You're waiting for motivation instead of building a system, and motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. But systems run whether you feel like it or not. You don't need to work on your side hustle every day, but you do need a specific time, a specific day, a specific commitment. 2 hours every Saturday morning, 30 minutes before work on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Something you protect like an appointment. Because if it's always optional, it will always lose. Not to laziness, to everything else that feels more urgent. Treat it like a hobby, and it will pay you like one. Treat it like a priority, and it starts to grow. You keep tweaking it. One more edit, one more feature, one more design change. You tell yourself you're almost ready, just a little more polish, and then you'll share it. But the truth is, you've been almost ready for months, and every day you spend perfecting it is another day no one gets to use it. The mistake isn't caring about quality, it's believing that perfection protects you from criticism. It doesn't, it just delays feedback. And feedback is the only thing that tells you if you're building something people actually want. You don't need a flawless product, you need a working one. Something someone can try, use, and tell you what's missing. Because the gap between what you think people need and what they actually need can only be closed by putting something out there. Imperfect work that exists will always beat perfect work that doesn't. So stop polishing, start testing, let the market teach you what matters. That's how you build something real. You push through every day, no matter how you feel. You tell yourself that consistency means showing up even when you're drained. So you do. You work late, skip rest, ignore the signs that you need to slow down, and for a while you keep going. But then you hit a wall. Not a soft one, a full stop. You can't think clearly. You resent the work. You start avoiding the thing you used to care about. The mistake isn't working hard, it's working without rhythm. Because your side hustle isn't a sprint. It's something you need to sustain for months, maybe years, and if you burn out in month 3, none of the rest matters. You don't need to work every single day. You need to work in a way that you can maintain. Some weeks you go hard. Other weeks you ease off. You listen to your body. You protect your energy like it's the most valuable resource you have. Because it is. Discipline isn't ignoring how you feel. It's building a pace you can actually keep. And the people who last aren't the ones who push the hardest. They're the ones who know when to rest so they can keep going. So give yourself permission to slow down. It's not quitting, it's protecting what you're building. You keep checking what they're doing, the other people in your space, their posts, their pricing, their growth. And every time you look, you feel behind, like you need to catch up, do more, be better. So you start copying their moves, their style, their offers, their messaging. But the more you try to match them, the less you sound like yourself. And people notice. The mistake isn't paying attention to competition, it's letting it dictate your decisions. Because here's what you forget when you're comparing. They're not your competition. They're on a different timeline, with a different audience, solving problems in a different way. And the energy you spend watching them is energy you're not spending building your own thing. The people who succeed aren't the ones who outcompete everyone. They're the ones who stop competing and start serving. They focus on their customers, not their rivals, on their strengths, not someone else's strategy. So stop scrolling through their profiles. Stop measuring your month 2 against their year 3. Put your head down and build something only you can build. That's the only race worth running. You came up with something clever, a feature, a service, a new way of doing things. It made sense to you. It felt original, so you built it. But when you finally shared it, no one responded. Not because it was bad, but because no one was looking for it. And that's the mistake. You created a solution before confirming the problem was real. You assumed pain points instead of asking about them. And now you're sitting on something polished that no one needs. The best side hustles don't start with ideas. They start with listening to conversations, complaints, repeated questions, to the things people already pay for badly. When you build from there, you're not guessing, you're responding, and people pay faster for things that feel like they were made for them. So before you build the next thing, pause. Ask someone what's frustrating them. Watch where they're already spending money, then build that. Not what sounds cool, what's already wanted. That's the difference between a side project and a side income.